Great. Okay, so yes, welcome again, everybody, to our Wednesday webinar for September, where we are going to look back at the year that was, and then to look to what's next for the Burrenbeo story. So we're delighted to have you here this evening. Some of you are possibly very familiar with Burrenbeo and our story, but hopefully there'll still be some new little pieces that you will get from this evening's webinar. And for those who maybe are newer to the Burrenbeo family, hopefully it'll give you a good overview of who we are and what we're trying to do as an organisation. As I mentioned, I am the trust coordinator, and I've been working with Burrenbeo Trust since 2012. So have a good memory of all of the development, I suppose, that the organisation has been through. And it's been really significant. It's been really lovely to see the organisation really grow and expand and develop over the years. And I'll touch a little bit on some of that, obviously, over the course of the presentation. So, as I said, some of you are probably extremely familiar with who we are, but just it's always good to remind, I suppose, remind us all of why Burrenbeo exists, what it is that we're hoping to achieve. So we're an independent landscape charity dedicated to connecting all of us to our places and our role in caring for these places. So it's quite a broad mission statement, I suppose, that we really are looking to be that bridge for people to find the first step, perhaps, to learn a little bit more about elements of their local place and their local heritage. And then in a lot of our programs now, we've switched the focus very much to this idea of supporting communities and people in identifying and then carrying through on the actions that we can all take to look after our places. How we do this is around this idea of engaged communities actively involved in conservation of their place, which in academic circles is called community stewardship. Essentially, we believe the people of the place should be the ones that are involved with and engaged in what's happening in the place and then supported to make positive changes for their place. As you can see, we've currently 10 part-time staff. I mentioned I have been involved since 2012, and when I joined the organisation, there was one part-time member of staff. So we've grown over the years, but I think grown gradually and with a very deliberate um, plan, I suppose, in terms of how we function as an organisation. And I think it's I always mention, I think it's good to mention, it's part-time staff by choice. We're very um we think it's very important that staff are facilitated to work in a way that is meaningful, or I suppose conducive to their lives. At this stage, we have over 25 different programs that we're coordinating, so a very broad range, engaging a wide age range from very young school children to not so young people who are no longer school children and everything in between. And the other element that is kind of makes our programs at times different is that we also look at the whole place. So we often talk about the built, natural, and cultural heritage of a place or the layers of a place. A lot of organizations focus on one particular layer, so they may be focused entirely on the environment and biodiversity, or they may be entirely focused on maybe the built heritage. Whereas for us, we try to think of places in their entirety, all of these layers, and then with the community as that central piece of the place. We've over 750 members currently, of which we are very, very proud to have and also very grateful to have. Members made up of individuals, couples, families, businesses, local, national, and international. And I know obviously everybody joining us here is part of that number. And we really, as I said, are very, very grateful to our members for the support they give us. And also, I suppose it gives us a sense that, there are a large number of people that believe strongly in the approach we're taking and the work we're doing. And it gives us a mandate in some respects to carry out the work that we're doing. Another important group of people who are part of the Burrenbeo story are over 100 volunteers. So we've different types of volunteers, I suppose, who support the organisation. So the Burrenbeo conservation volunteers are a great and active group of people who get out and do things in the Burren. So get involved in archaeological digs, habitat maintenance. They were recently out on a beach cleanup. So a brilliant group of people who are really actively giving back to the place. And then we also have another very important, and there are crossovers between these, but a very important group of people who support specific programs, like our walk volunteers who coordinate the walks, the monthly walks, or perhaps event volunteers who help out at the likes of Burn and Bloom or the Winterage Weekend. And then we have a growing community online who are following what we do through various social media platforms. And again, something that we are delighted to see that it's spreading the message and spreading the model that Burrenbeo espouses to a much wider audience. So with that said, I suppose to the business at hand, the annual report and financial statements. And I think, as an organization, we've a certain sense of, producing a report late 24 for 2023. And it's not really how we normally function. We're normally very efficient in terms of reports and so on come out in a very timely fashion. But the linking of the narrative report, I suppose, to the financial statements, the audited accounts, just by its nature means that it is something that happens slightly later in the year. So while I will be speaking to the contents of that report, which relate to 2023, I think it's really useful. It gives us a snapshot in time of the organization, recording where it was at that point, and also, as I said, giving us an opportunity then to look to the future with that. So this is your sneak preview of the a version, I suppose, of the front cover of the report, which will be winging its way to all members by email tomorrow. So it's something to look out for. And also, one definitely to look out for that particular email, because that email will also have the opening of ticket sales for members for the Winterage Weekend. So you heard it here first. Keep an eye on your emails tomorrow for those who are hoping to come to Winterage Weekend. But don't worry, we'll see more Winterage before too long. So yeah, the annual reports, I suppose, many of us are probably familiar with them as a format. It gives an organization an opportunity to reflect on the year that was, the successes, the failures, and I suppose to give a picture of what was achieved during the year, and then the finances that supported that. So we're really delighted this year to have been able to produce the report along with the audited accounts. And it's the first year actually that we have done it in this way. So that is something that was good to achieve. And very early on in this report, and I'm not going to go through each piece of it, but I suppose touch on a few of the highlights. But one of the first pages is this, exactly as it says on the title, Our Programs at a Glance, which gives a start of the kind of breadth and range of programs that we're now delivering. And this doesn't cover all 25, obviously, and it's kind of the more significant or the main programs within our work. And some of them you'll be very familiar with. Some of them are very long-standing programs, such as the members' walks and tea talks, and still very central to our work of getting people out into the Burren and learning about the Burren. And the members' walks are really successful in terms of both just the content and the quality of the delivery that, we are so lucky to have so many wonderful walk leaders who we are so grateful to, and wonderful landowners who allow us to access their land in order to carry out these walks. We now, for the last while, have had 2 walks per month, and even still they're booked out. So apologies to those who don't make it onto the walks that they're interested in. But I suppose it's just testament to the appetite that is there for people to get out and to experience the place. And also, I think, to experience it with a group of probably like-minded people. It adds another dimension. And then the tea talks during the winter months in Tubber Hall. Similarly, wonderful speakers who give their time and share their expertise, and equally as important for those events is the cup of tea and the chance to have a chat. So a really lovely, long-standing piece or part of the Burrenbeo programme. The members' webinars then, of which this is obviously one, I'm sure some of you have been to some or many of them, really varied, again, really wonderful speakers. I've heard people say that, they're university standard, and I think that could be a double-edged compliment or an insult, but I think what's meant is, it the quality of information is really top notch, but equally, I think very often delivered in a really brilliant way that's very accessible, which I wouldn't always say is guaranteed in university. But the webinars, yeah, wonderful resource again to have going forward. So while for most of the webinars you might have 40 or 50 attendees, the webinars are recorded and then on our YouTube channel, and then within a week or so you can have hundreds or thousands of people having tuned in and watched it. So again, a huge bank of knowledge that's now available to people online. Another of the more long-standing of our programs are Burn and Bloom, and obviously the Winteridge Weekend that I mentioned. They really bookend our year to brilliant community festivals, celebrations of this place, and obviously with the Winteridge Weekend, very specifically celebrating the farming traditions of this area. And we quite recently redesigned, I suppose, our local Burren Schools program, and we now call it the Calf and Cuckoo title, which we took from one of our previous directors' publication. Shane Casey wrote a book, a lovely children's book called The Calf and Cuckoo, about that connection between farming in the Burren and biodiversity. So it was very fitting title then for our local primary schools program, which we deliver to primary schools and involves a visit to coincide with Burn and Bloom, and a visit to coincide with the Winteridge Weekend, and a field trip. And the response has been amazing. No surprises. I think people are delighted to have somebody that will come and share their knowledge, and in a way, again, that's accessible to the children. We're very used to engaging young people and making it interesting for them. Other programs there that you'll spot are slightly newer to the Burrenbeo family, Farming for Nature, which is one of our national programs, which is again has been a change over the years, that we have moved in our reach from just entirely Burren to now having a number of quite significant national programs. And Farming for Nature, like actually all of the national programs, has its roots very firmly in the Burren, where the initial idea was to really celebrate those farmers in the Burren that were going above and beyond. And since that initial idea, it has developed into a hugely impactful program where there are now ambassadors, Farming for Nature ambassadors all over Ireland, all different farming systems, who are sharing with their peers and with the wider public, I suppose, an alternative viewpoint on farming. And also Farming for Nature have been, the program have been working a lot on developing resources and facilitating others that want to do something similar. So very much within the Burrenbeo ethos of, sharing the knowledge and then trying to support others to take the action, which is also where Heritage Keepers, another of our newer initiatives, is very firmly placed. So Heritage Keepers, again, the seed or the idea for that firmly in the original Burren schools programs that we delivered, where we were sharing information about the Burren, but this has now again evolved and developed and is now being delivered nationally as well to schools and community groups. And again, that was another step, that recognizing that there are a lot of adult groups that are interested in learning about their places, and well placed then to take action, which is the second piece of the Heritage Keepers program. And again, I think what really sets it apart in that while we support and facilitate the learning about your place, wherever that place may be, we are also there to support through mentoring and project development, and very importantly, financing, to see a project idea that is developed through the program to completion. So a really, really nice project. And similarly, I suppose the Hare's Corner, another one that really captured the imagination, where we're supporting landowners to take actions for biodiversity, such as woodlands, orchards, ponds, and plants for nature. And or the Hare's Corner has also gone national. In a number, we're moving slightly. Not we didn't go national straight off the bat. We are piloting with a number of different counties very successfully. But I think just recently we had a meeting where we were trying to gauge the interest for biodiversity officers biodiversity officers from around Ireland who wanted to have the Hare's Corner delivered in their county next year, and it's safe to say that there is significant interest. So again, it's another um, program developed in the Burren, and then I suppose that has spread out and has allowed us to have impact and to engage and to really push this idea of community stewardship to a far wider audience, of course, to the benefit of places and heritage and communities throughout Ireland, which is very positive. And then other programs I've mentioned, the Conservation Volunteers, the Burn Pine Project, a project where we've been looking to re-establish nursery sites of the native Irish pine. And then the kind of the less flashy, I suppose, things that are constantly going on behind the scenes and actually really are what make the rest of the things happen a lot of the time. A huge body of work for us as an organization goes into communications and outreach. And so, spreading our message far and wide. And the figures here just give it a small idea of the kind of numbers we're talking about in terms of our reach when we're looking at programs such as this. So just to return a little bit more to the document, the annual report, it's kind of formulated or built around the 5 strategic priorities of Burrenbeo Trust as an organisation. So they're listed here. Number 1, to create an efficient, impactful, grounded, and resilient organisation. Number 2, to promote, enable, and support community stewardship and active conservation in the Burren. Number 3, to better connect communities with their place and their planet and their role in its care. Number 4, to provide information about the Burren across a range of media. And number 5, to advocate for the Burren and for community stewardship here and elsewhere, to build strategic alliances in order to do so more efficiently and effectively. So that's what we're trying to do. And how the annual report is structured is basically under each of these strategic priorities, we have a number of objectives, and we've outlined the key achievements in terms of meeting those objectives for 2023. And I'm not going to go through them all. You may be glad to hear, and you can read them in your own time, but just, as an idea for strategic priority 1, we're obviously looking there at supporting our staff, looking at good governance for the organisation, valuing and supporting our members, volunteers, patrons, donors, securing sustainable sources of funding, ensuring access for staff to comfortable office space and all necessary equipment, continuing to plan strategically, and supporting local product and service providers. And as you can see, I'm delighted to be able to say that, there were significant key achievements against each of these objectives in 2023, but just one that I wanted to maybe draw attention to, which I think is particularly important for an organisation like Burrenbeo Trust, and particularly it's something for us to be very cognizant of moving forward. We were delighted, as it says here, to receive multi-annual funding from the Sunflower Fund and the Life's Too Good Foundation in 2023, of which we are so grateful, and we really, really appreciate funding, but particularly the multi-annual element. It really makes it much easier when you're looking at significant programs like perhaps Heritage Keepers or the Hare's Corner, to know that you are not planning year to year, that you will have funding over a number of years, and it allows you to develop and enhance the project. So that was a real positive for 2023. Moving then to strategic priority number 2, and you can see here we're looking at things like the walks, the talks, the BCV events, the Hare's Corner measures, and the Burn Pine project, which we crossed the 1,000 mark in 2023, where we had planted 1,000 burn pines, which is quite significant. But also I think on this, I have to draw attention to the huge achievements under the Hare's Corner project. And again, as I was kind of saying, as an organisation, we've had a slow and steady growth. And with each of these projects, it's been slow and steady growth. So again, the Hare's Corner in 23, I'm looking at these numbers and I know now the numbers for 24. And again, I can see, that's a continuing trend, that we're looking at capacity and expanding where we can, but strategically, I suppose. But in 2023, there were over 300 Hares Corner actions delivered in Clare and Mayo, which was our first step outside the Burren. We kind of piloted with Mayo to see would this work as an idea, where we weren't as available on the ground to support the landowners. And also, Hares Corners have been delivered or have been given to Farming for Nature nominees, which is another nice crossover between projects. So when, 300 actions, what it actually equates to is 62 ponds, 90 heritage apple orchards with which are 786 new fruit trees, 69 native woodlands, 3,678 native trees, 57 plans for nature and 8 peatland plans. And then alongside that as well, it's always, as an organization looking to see, okay, can we add value, I suppose, providing information events to support those who had received the Hares Corners in the management and the ongoing actions, but also those who don't, that they could be supported through information to maybe take some actions. And we're always looking at that part of these projects, how to continue to develop and support and to build the network of these very often individuals or sometimes communities who have taken these actions, so that they continue to feel like their action is part of a wider collective action. Moving then to some of the more of the objectives on strategic priority 2, Burn and Bloom, the Winterage Weekend, the one-off events like the Dawn Chorus Walk, Heritage Week events, continuing to be reflective, I suppose, of the organisation, examining purpose and value and building on opportunities for community building. And the two here that I just wanted to mention again, I don't think you can ever really talk about Burrenbeo's work without highlighting, I suppose, Burn and Bloom and the Burn Winterage Weekend. Again, I was particularly happy in 2023 that we were able to move back to how Burn and Bloom once or originally was, in that it, I think, started life as a month-long celebration, and over the years we had to cut it back based on our capacity. But thankfully we had the resources in 2023 to deliver a month-long festival again, and we had events over every weekend in May. As you can see, 527 attendances recorded. Really positive response, events that were oversubscribed, and again, clearly showing the appetite that people have to engage with these topics, and to come out and get involved and be part of something like Burn and Bloom. And then the Winterage Weekend, which Winterage 2024 is fast approaching, and every year I think it can't get better, because the Winterage Weekend is just something very special. I think it really, again, epitomizes what Burrenbeo is about celebrating the connections between people and landscape, and about, inviting people into that conversation and opening up the conversation. So it's always so amazing to see the hundreds of people who turn out to the likes of the community cattle drive, and really get a sense of what it means to farm in the Burren, and that deeper meaning around what the Burren is about. So yeah, very positive response to these events, and we are very proud of them. Strategic priority 3 then is around, I suppose, the education or learning side of our work. So the likes of heritage keepers, providing training to others on the initial or the kind of approaches that we take, researching best practice, and looking to integrate those findings into our work, and hosting learning events, hosting visiting groups, and constantly looking at what the situation is like on the Burren, and what role we could play in any threats or opportunities as they arise. And for this priority, I was just going to highlight again heritage keepers. And it's one that I'm probably particularly close to, as I was very involved in the development of the program. But again, I would see it as a real testament to, that idea of trialing something and seeing how it works here, and then looking to share that with others. Because sometimes, I almost feel like we have an onus to do that now, because we really would all acknowledge, of course, the kind of the need for action on biodiversity loss and disconnecting communities and so on. So it's a part that we can play, a really meaningful action. And through the Heritage Keepers program, which, as I said, we work with primary schools and communities. we had two different kind of cohorts, I suppose, in 2023. It's divided around the school year, which makes uh, counting the numbers slightly difficult in the calendar year. But 40 primary schools and communities at the first half of the year, 500 students, 120 adults, and then 70 at the second half of the year, 875 students and 210 adults. And again, as I said, all of those participants took part in an extensive workshop series where they learnt about their local place and were given the tools to find out more about their local place themselves. So it's sharing the many online resources that are available. Also, though, giving opportunity to critically think about your place and ask questions about your place and how you want it to be into the future. And then, as I said, through that process, identifying an action that that particular group, given their skill set and time and so on, an action that they could undertake, take from planning to completion, with our support, and very importantly, as I mentioned, with the microfinancing grants that we are able to give them, through the support of our funders, which again really set the program apart. That we take people through the whole process of thinking about it, deciding an idea, and completing it. And there's one example there in the picture of a lovely wildlife pond that was completed by an urban school in North County Dublin. And we've had lovely reports back from them since of, the various wildlife that have appeared in their pond and, continue to engage. I mean, the range of projects is they're individual each time. So there's a very, very broad range of projects that are completed, but ponds, tree planting, heritage trails, local history booklets, oral history projects, celebration days of local culture. There so many different projects have been decided upon, planned, and completed by schools and communities around Ireland because of this project. I'll move then to strategic priority 4. As I said, this is probably the less fun or the less flashy stuff, and the stuff behind the scenes. But essentially, as I said, there's a lot of work going on, where we're trying to provide up-to-date information on the Burren through our websites, um, engage with people through our social media platforms, preparing an annual report. So that's one box I can tick. We have done that, we can confirm. And as I said, this is the first year that it's compiled to include the audited accounts, which is great. I think a very positive step for the organisation. The monthly snapshot newsletters continue to distribute field guides and other relevant informational materials, books such as Shane's Calf and Cuckoo book that I mentioned, and then continuing to engage with local, national, and international media where relevant. And then finally, you'd be glad to hear, final one I want to mention, strategic priority 5, advocating for the Burren and for community stewardship here and elsewhere, is a very, very important part of our work. I suppose looking to encourage others, inspire others to maybe adopt some of our methodologies. So as you see here, looking to build alliances and partnerships with various organisations, developing and delivering the Farming for Nature programme, supporting the Acres Burren Arran initiative, continuing to develop the Burren's potential as a learning landscape, and looking to engage at a policy level, so whether it's politicians, business leaders, universities, and so on. And just for this priority, I do think it very important to highlight again the work that Farming for Nature as a programme have been doing, really going from strength to strength with 91 ambassadors in 2023. And again, there will be 12 new ambassadors added to that very impressive roster at the 2024 Winteridge weekend. And again, as I said, what's brilliant about this is, it's giving a platform to those who are doing things maybe a little bit differently, but also it's allowing people who are interested in trying to do this themselves an avenue to get access to that information. And one of the lovely initiatives under the Farming for Nature programme is the Horse's Mouth, which is essentially a peer learning programme where farmers who are ambassadors are paid to go and visit farmers who would like to start farming for nature. And again, to hear exactly from the horse's mouth what it's like, what the reality is from somebody who truly gets it. So that's been really, really positive. So with all that said, I suppose looking to the future, I think it's important to look at what we have included in the annual report as our key goals in 2024, and also to let you know that I'm delighted that we are well on our way to addressing and meeting these goals so far within our work program. But you'll see from what's included there, it's very much looking at, we have a strong bank of programs that are very impactful, achieving significant outcomes on the ground. But I think, have now come to a time as we mature as an organization where we can look at the kind of the strength of the organization, the organization's organizational sustainability, just as much as each of those programs. So in 2024, there's been a focus on building efficiency within the organization. So some of you, no, all of you probably have encountered our new membership system. Which hopefully wasn't too negative an experience for you, but I can assure you that the amount of time saved, the freeing up of resources and capacity that we've achieved in implementing that system has been really, really significant. We've also started using a new database system which allows us to manage applications and then ongoing communications and so on with both our Hare's Corner participants and Heritage Keepers participants. So really, really important parts of that puzzle that allow us to work efficiently and that the staff team is spent delivering programs as opposed to doing things that actually there are machines and programs that I'll never understand how they do it, but they can do it for us. So that's great. And I suppose on a similar vein, we've also been looking very much at evaluation in 2024. And I think again it also speaks to that sign of, we have our programs established and developed and now looking to ensure that they're meeting the needs of our communities and having the maximum impact. So we've been engaging with external evaluators. We have developed a monitoring scheme for the Hare's Corner, and we're hopefully in the near future going to be working with a company who looks specifically at evaluation and impact measuring. So, now that we have the programs in place, it's timely that we focus on these elements. And then the final goal, and again, one that I was particularly keen on addressing in 2024, is around our communication and messaging. And on that, we are in the middle of a communications audit that's being conducted again by an external company, and just looking to see if we are sharing our message as clearly as we could, as effectively as we could. Are we reaching the audiences that we want to reach? And if not, how we could be supported to do that. So, as I said, I think the work that's going on this year, alongside all of the programs that I've just spoken of in terms of 2023, which continue to, form the central work of Burrenbeo Trust in 2024, really will leave us by the end of this year as a very, very strong organization, which is something lovely to see. So I think there is just one last very important image that I would like to share, which is, of course, the team, the people, which are really what make this all work, what make it all happen. And I always feel, really so lucky to work with such wonderful people. Every single one of them go so far above and beyond in order to carry out their work for Burrenbeo Trust. I think probably because most of us really fully believe in what we're doing and can see that we're making a difference and having an impact, which is obviously very meaningful work to be engaged with, but such a wonderful team of people, and each one of them adds so much to the organization. I would like to draw attention particularly to one member of the team who actually left us in 2023, who was Kate Lavender. And Kate and I joined the organization in 2012 together. So we were around a while, and in just last year, Kate decided that she'd like to go back to teaching, to be in a classroom full time. So we were very, very sad to see her go, but I can assure you that many of the programs that Kate was involved with, or the developments that she put in place while she was here are still very much part of the organisation. So her legacy lives on. And on similar note, we had a very long-standing member of our board, who was the chair of our board, Martin Hawkes, also stood down in 2023. And Martin as well had given so much to the organisation, and had always been really, really helpful in terms of organisation strategy and direction and so on. So we were sad to lose him, but delighted to welcome Sadie Chowan as chairperson of our board. And also we had some new board members join us in 2023, who were really delighted to have and appreciate their time and expertise so much. Also there, obviously, you can see the other part of the team are the sponsors and donors, grant funders, and the business friends whose support allow us to do what we do. You know, we genuinely couldn't do it without them. And we really, really appreciate everybody who supports us, from the members and right through to those who give more significant donations. And I always think when I talk about Burrenbeo and funders and so on, as I said a couple of times, I'm here since 2012, and we have seen some tough times in Burrenbeo over those years, where there was very, very limited resources, limited to no resources available at times. But I think that has stands to us as an organisation, in that we are very conscious of how any money received is spent. We are very grateful for any money received. And I always feel like it's a very um like a very good return on investment in terms of every euro donated to Burrenbeo, how we can amplify it and multiply it into much more significant impact. So thank you all very, very much for the support. So with all of that said, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to look to invite, as I said, our treasurer, Dara O'Criadon, to say a few words. And while Dara is speaking, I will be inviting you all to join as panelists, as I mentioned, and anybody who has a question that would like to come on camera or comment, please accept the invitation. And if you don't want to, or you want to put a question or comment in the chat, please do so. So Dara, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Anya. Good evening to you all. I should say at the outset that the treasury role within the board is mainly about staying abreast of our financial position, liaising with the team to ensure that we are on track within the tram lines we set ourselves at the beginning of any year. And it's as much supportive as it is about oversight. The person who does the real work of financial management within the team is John Lamb, and I'm certainly very grateful to him for the way he keeps me informed in a very accessible way of what is going on with the very professional job he does. Within the annual report that you will receive shortly, there is in the body of the report early on a short treasurer's report that gives the headline position. And then at the back of the report, there's the full unexpurgated audited accounts. The headline financial performance of the organisation for 2023 is simply stated. We took in €640,000 approximately by way of turnover. We spent €607,000, and that left us with a surplus of 33,000. After several years of surpluses of varying sizes, we have accumulated €500,000 approximately in cash at the end of 2023. Now, of that, approximately 213,000 was restricted funds in the sense of it being earmarked for specific projects. But the remaining €330,000 is unrestricted funds, and it's at the trust's discretion to allocate as it decides within the purposes of the organisation as defined in our constitution. So at the end of 2023, we were in a very healthy financial position. Now, Burrenbeo is not in the business of making money. Rather, money is the fuel that ensures our sustainability and our capacity to do what we want to do. Money serves two broad purposes. In sporting terms, in one of those purposes is to protect our defence. Within the €330,000 of unrestricted funds, we have set aside €108,000 as an operational reserve to ensure that even if our funding dries up altogether, we can survive as an organisation for 6 months, that we can continue to pay our staff and keep the office open. Remember, Burrenbeo has no recurring or multi-annual funding. We start each new year at zero, and we depend on getting the funding attached to specific projects and streams of activity, grants, and the support of donors, and most important for an evening like this, our long-standing individual members. Again, reverting to the sporting analogy, having money enables us to take the offense. It gives us the capacity to deepen our footprint and spread our message beyond as well as within the Burren. Now, when I joined the board in 2020, our turnover was approximately half the size it is now. And though I was so much more loosely involved with the organisation before that, it wasn't many years before that our turnover was only a quarter of the 640,000 we recorded in 2023. Now, and we expect to continue to grow, perhaps not at the rate of recent years, but we do expect to continue to grow. Now, that does not mean that we are pursuing size and scale as ends in themselves. But where good reasons present themselves to spread our gospel, we want to be able to avail of them. We have taken the lessons and the experience of what we've done in the Burren to a wider audience across the country. And I'm thinking especially of Farming for Nature, the Hare's Corner, and Heritage Keepers in that context. In the right circumstances, we want to be able to continue to expand our canvas. But we want to ensure that any expansion, the volume, the range, and the geographical sphere in which we operate, that anything we do is executed properly. And that is to take the baton of what Anya stated as her goals for the coming year. We must put in place the systems, supports, processes, and people to ensure that we stay robust and sustainable as we grow. And just a small amount of forward-looking guidance. It is because of that need for investment in the how we do things as much as the what we do. We have deliberately budgeted in the current year for slightly more spending than turnover, but not at a level that will deplete our reserves materially. And 9 months in, we are on track with our budget. And that's all I have to contribute, Anya.
That's wonderful, Dara. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording, like I said.